I'm Amanda, and this is The Middle of It, a podcast about the messy, beautiful, in between parts of life. Today, I'm sitting down with my friend Jaci. This is our first interview, and I'm super excited about it. Kind of had a pain in the ass of trying to set up microphones yesterday and today, but we prevailed, and I think things are going to go all right. So let me tell you about Jaci. She's someone who has been through the cycle of relapse and return more than a couple times. But today we are talking about what she's learned along the way and also what she's still figuring out. Her journey has not been a straight line, but it's hers and it's beautiful. So, hey, Jackie,
Hi.
how are
So
you?
thankful and grateful to be here.
Happy to have you. So, I'm going to start this off with asking you, what are you in the middle of?
Yeah, so, right now, I'm in the middle of, I guess I could just say life. Life has been very messy the last couple months. Just kind of rebuilding a foundation. I'm 35 years old and I'm not really in the spot that I thought I would be at this age. And, I recently came back from a pretty bad relapse, and today I have 83 days returns. So, just trying to navigate a sober life and figure out what to do moving forward.
Nice. And you're doing a good job of it. Okay. So, one of the things that I've realized when I look back on even like my childhood, high school, whatever, my story has always kind of been surrounding chaos and me not making good choices. Whether it came to like alcohol, boys that I picked in high school, who I hung out with. It was just like this habitual pattern of bad choices. Are there any patterns that you've seen from your past?
Um, I would say self-sabotage has been like a huge pattern of mine. Even from a young age, I was kind of given the world. Like I grew up in a good family, I mean, we had our issues, but who doesn't? And just kind of like a sheltered child that you know, got all the finer things in life and kind of took them for granted. And, as I continued to grow up, I think it was like I was entitled and enabled, and I would kind of get to like a good spot, with a lot of opportunities and almost just immediately take, like, a step backward to focus on, external things, anything that gave me, like, a good feeling rather than putting in, like, the discipline and work it's needed to, live a consistent life. Even in, as early as, like, 12 years old that, like, I started using, like, food as a comfort, and I had been, like, really active in the swim team and, playing a lot of different sports, and instead of, like, using that to, have, like, I guess, the body of a what I considered a normal middle school person, I just, like, excessively binged and just got bigger and bigger, and, I think it was more the fear of not being the best in my sport, and, that kinda led to, like, having, like, a great high school career, going into college, and then using, again, external things like alcohol to just drink as much as possible, and I ended up, like, kinda dropping out of college because I wanted to be the best in my class, and if I couldn't be the best, I'd be the worst, and same with relationships, I would pick guys that I felt like needed to be fixed because, I could make it into the perfect family. I mean, it's much easier to bring somebody down than it is to bring somebody up. I had opportunities and I looked at those opportunities and were like, that's really hard. So if I can't do it to the best of my ability, I'll do it to the worst." And I kind of self-sabotage.
I get that. 100%. When I think about like how I picked boys, they're all super flawed and not that, there was anyone that's like perfect out there. But I picked people that needed to be fixed, and I loved a good project. I mean, get get my hands dirty, let me try and make you into the best man you can be, like, challenge accepted. Um, and you know what's crazy about that is, like, I had a great relationship with my dad. So, like, people always assume, like, "Oh, if a girl doesn't pick good guys, gotta be because she didn't have her father in her life." What was your relationship with, like, your dad?
So I like idolized my dad. I still kind of do actually. He was a great provider. He did leave us at 11 when I was 11 years old. He did move out. My parents never had a great relationship. And like with money and materialistic things, he was like always, there. And, if I excelled, he was there. And so, he's kind of been like a driving force in my life, to be the best that I can be, but when things get tough, he's not there, and, I think that's why my relationship, maybe with other men, is so complicated because it's not unconditional love I feel like I experience, but conditional love, and so I thought if I was a certain way or had certain things, then it wouldn't matter the project that I took on with these guys, that they would see, "Hey, man, like, you're doing great in life, so let me do great too," and that's just kind of again, been the pattern.
And not usually what happens.
No, never.
Unfor
Never.
Unfortunately, but maybe fortunately too.
Mm.
Alright, so going back a little bit, you, were talking about, how you grew up and your parents had not been together, he had left the home. What's your family dynamic? Are you an only child? Do you have siblings?
So, yeah, I have a younger sibling, she's 2.5 years, younger than I am, and we were really close growing up. I always looked at her as the golden child. She seemed, like she was pretty and popular and great in school and, just never seemed to fall short in a lot of areas. And a lot of the time I looked at her as the older sibling, even though I am. As far as my mom, me and her are still very close. We have like an enmeshed relationship, I would say. She's still the first person that I share every little detail of my life with. And that could be good in some respects, maybe not so good in others. But she definitely struggled from like depression and she had no problem sharing what a, excuse my language, asshole she thought my father was. So, again, we kind of bonded on the oh, men are bad, but like also can't live without them experience. And my sister took more of the isolated, independent woman like type of type of path. So us three women grew up together. It was like a woman-based house. And me and my sister slowly grew apart with our different paths. And
So, tell me a little bit about what it was like once you were leaving high school. What were you doing? What was that phase of your life like?
sure. So I was in a bigger body, I like to say, in high school. And the summer before I went to college, I lost 100 pounds. I had not been in a relationship up to that point, and didn't know what it was like to have attention of other male or of males or really females on me because of as much as it is, a hard truth, the truth is that I feel that people do treat you differently based off how you look. I
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
I
definitely
agree.
do. I also, was very sheltered as a child. It was all about, my grades, and I was kinda nerdy, and, I didn't realize, like, what the real world was like until I went away and was separated from, like, my mom. So, going into college that first year, fine, I didn't drink till I was 18, and I started getting attention, and I kind of turned myself into what I thought, again, men liked. I was a party girl, and, I cared about being popular in college, and kinda everything else fell to the wayside for me. So, it was a huge shift in my life from being just this girl that wears sweatpants and large T-shirts, into this girl that wouldn't go out without, like, heels and, like, super tight, like, mini skirts and a face full of makeup, just because I thought that's what people wanted, and, you know?
And that's when you started dabbing into drinking and, as I know drugs are a part of your story, how did when did that come into play?
Sure, so once I, took that first drink, I always thought that I was confident regardless of what had happened to me in high school with how I looked, just because I did have a strong group of women or girls back then that we all kinda just lifted each other up and just cared about other stuff besides the attention. So, I didn't realize how insecure I was around men until I took that first drink and, like, kind of felt like a supergirl, like, everything nothing really mattered, how I looked didn't matter, like, I knew that, like, you wanted me, and that was a great feeling. So the drinking really took off. I couldn't interact with men without having like a drink in my system. And that feeling really kind of spiraled into me drinking every day. And I was a blackout drinker. So uh every night I would have a huge gap of like what happened. And I wasn't the type of drinker that passed out on the couch. I was the type of drinker that blacked out. And for some reason, my body kept going. And I just got into a lot of mayhem and havoc because of that. So when I ended up turning to uppers, which is like my substance of choice, it was originally to just even out my drinking so that I would be able to remember more. And I just felt way more in control. And that led me to a different source of people, a different group of people that, really kind of focus more on the drugs than the alcohol and different types of men that were like the bad boys that sold and oh my god, like they had the motorcycles and like the leather jackets and that became more my interest. And so I went down that path and kind of dropped alcohol.
Yep, I get that. So when did you realize it was a problem?
So my parents, my mom, brought me to an AA meeting when I was 19 years old, and I thought that was ridiculous and that I was just young and adventurous and having a good time. I went into my first program, inpatient rehab, when I was 21 years old, because I had studied abroad at Oxford University in England and drank every day, and I came back and was getting the shakes and stuff. And I still didn't think I had a problem. I just thought that if my dad hadn't left my mom and I hadn't grown up in such like a house that totally I felt controlled me at that point, that like, I would have been better prepared for the real world. I was like 24 and 24, 25, and I forgot to say I grew up in Georgia. I ended up moving up here due to a very toxic relationship that I decided that maybe being around other people working on themselves would be best for me. So I started actively taking a role in going to meetings and trying to listen to that message. To be honest, I have gone in and out a lot. I am what they call a chronic relapser, or I was. And, even up to my 30s, regardless of how many programs, how many inpatients I've been to, I still have had that thought of, oh, like, I just took it a little too far. Or as I get older and more experience and more knowledge, like I'll be able to drink or use successfully. So, like, really having that moment, that aha moment of, "Okay, this is a problem," it still has taken me, I think, until the age of 35 to even fully surrender and admit to that.
Well, it took me this just as long because I was 35 when I came in. So so you're not old coming into the program at 35, by the way.
Twinning.
But it's funny that actually sparked a memory for me is I think I was a sophomore in high school, and it was spring break. My mom had read my journal, big no no, but she did. And she read that I had been drinking like crazy, some of the stuff that was happening as a result of the drinking, which I don't even really remember what was in there, but I know it wasn't good. And I know I probably included stories of her daughter dancing on bars and basements. And then I know I was, telling whatever my journal, my dear diary moment of like, I smoked weed and I did it over and over again. And so she definitely reacted and she took me to Carrier Clinic, which is a mental institute in New Jersey, and was
Been there.
started an outpatient program with a bunch of other kids that were like doing bad stuff, had mental issues, or were addicted to drugs, all different things. And you know what I got there? I got a boyfriend. That's what I got. um, so what was your first experience actually trying to get sober?
I would say the first time I actually tried, when I first came up here, from Georgia to New Jersey, because I was coming again off of a really bad relationship, and, I think that that was kind of a catalyst for me to realize, like, okay, I obviously am not making the best decisions. I literally had to move states to get away from my decisions. And for some reason, it seems that boys and drugs and alcohol are kind of the root of all of these decisions. So maybe I should start to listen rather than do it my way. And, and I did for about 10 months until I met another guy in the rooms and realized that, oh, the answer was just that the guys in Georgia were worse than the guys in Jersey, and so, obviously, I need to be in a relationship with this boy that has 30 days because he plays guitar and has long hair, and let's try this whole, scenario again.
I get it. As you know, like I with my ex, he went into his detox program, and I thought that that was just like the most um, noble thing that someone could do when they were addicted to drugs was to go into a very short term detox program. Little did I have any idea of what it actually took to get and remain sober and clean and it's just crazy like looking back and seeing again those types of patterns.
Mhm.
What did you think sobriety would be like initially when you first came in?
I thought that sobriety would be parties, learning how to party sober and do fun things sober, and, um just give me a life that, like, if I stopped drinking or using within 30 days, like, I would have all the things that I ever wanted, um, whether that be a good relationship or entering the rooms would just give me a good career or just having better relationships with, like, my parents or, just kind of being, like, the apple of the eye of not just, like, my family, but kind of, like, the world. Like, I thought I would go in and everyone would be like, "Oh my god, she's doing so many good things for her life. Let's forget about all the other things she's done, and now she's, like, a rock star," and kinda would just take all of my problems away, but not take them away because I had to work on them, just take them away from doing the act of walking into a room or a rehab and fixing myself very quickly.
And what was the actual reality of it? What was walking in and first trying to get sober?
The reality was that obviously, those first couple days are always just like this mind bending, like world of chaos and pain that like are almost hard to kind of get through just because of such like just because of the detox period, right? But and then walking in again, like that first couple like weeks, it's like there is a lot of attention on you and like you are the newcomer and like it feels really good because like these people like just kind of come up to you and give you hugs and want to know about like your life and like I was loving the attention and was getting a lot of validation through that. But then when like my family kinda started to be like, "Alright, well, you have a lot of things to, like, work on and fix." Like, a job didn't come back right away, like, I didn't graduate college yet, and, like, I started to realize, like, I had to put in, like, work, and, like, having to work on yourself internally, I have realized is a lot harder than doing external things, in my opinion. And, like, unless you're in, like, a spot that, like, that even makes sense, which, like, it hasn't for a long time for me, like, my heart and my mind just weren't very connected, as much as, like, I started to get external things back, like, I still felt a major void inside of me that I didn't understand why I couldn't fill, with, just walking into a room. Like I said, I thought that that would be enough, and, when that void got bigger and I didn't learn any coping skills, to fill it, then, like, I thought that the programs and, like, all of that were lies and a problem, and so I walked away from them.
Yeah, I get that because it's like, um, we take away the one thing that we can rely on to make us feel better, to deal with life, to deal with the hard things. And then it's like, oh, now you have to deal with life without this thing that you've always had, that you've always been able to rely on. The most loyal of all, like, substances, you know what
Mhm,
I mean? It's
mhm,
like substances or whatever, fill in substances with whatever an
mhm,
addiction could be, and it could be gambling, it could be sex, it could be anything, but you take that away, and without the tools of, you know, recovery and change, it's just mind-boggling to me how and I completely believe that people can get and stay sober in multiple ways, but it still is shocking to me when I think of how much my sober journey has been fixing what's inside, um, more than learning how to say no to alcohol or be able to leave a party when things get to a point where I need to. It's it's not that I learned a lot of those things my first 1, 2 years, but and practiced them over and over again. But it was really learning how, we're talking about reacting, how to respond versus react and and what to do when life gets hard. All of those things is what I realize now. It like keeps me that's what keeps me sober. And I just don't know how people I get it, you do. Whoever you are out there, tell me how. But um yeah, I think that's a pretty crazy thing. But you're hitting the nail on the head of like one of the things that I think is important for you to see is not having done that work left this gap for you where it became incredibly difficult for you um, to continue with your sober journey and also to make you feel a little bit more apprehensive of the program and kind of feeling like, oh, this is bullshit because it's not working for me. But you kind of gotta work it for it to work. Um,
and I still struggle with that, right? I'm
yeah.
not in a place, like, where I have learned really to respond rather than react, and I can say I'm very much emotionally driven, without identifying what those actual emotions are. But I think the beginning of the process was realizing that this substance, again, or fill in the blank, was for me like my boyfriend that never left me, or my best friend, or my parents that didn't leave either. And like I had thought that it was other people that were the problem, it was an area I was living that was the problem, like, I didn't recognize that there was anything wrong with me internally, I just felt like I was an alien and that this was the juice of life, and that if everybody else acted the way that I did, that the world would be a better place, and I didn't realize that the world would be a better place if I internally could figure out what was going on inside of me and rebuild my own world. And I'm in the process of that. It's a grieving process right now. That's the stages I'm in of letting go. of what has always been there for me. But
Mm,
like I said, it's an external thing, and if you rely on external things, eventually, they all leave. So
mhm, absolutely. And I think one thing is that the whole idea of healthy minded people don't drink and do drugs. That's really like, that's the basis for me. That's what I had to hear because I felt like, oh, well, I'm so smart and people like me and I have friends and I have family and all these things like you're saying even I lost a ton of materialistic things in my journey, but I got to a point white knuckling it, or not even white knuckling it, that's the wrong term. It's just like trying to pull things together to make me feel like I wasn't losing everything and still hiding what was really going on behind the scenes. But when I came into AA and I heard people say that this is the problem on the inside, this is something that you need to work through the steps to fix. And I'm like, oh my God, like I do not need to like fix things. I need to fix like my drinking problem. That's what I need to fix. And then once I realized it was a me problem, really sucked, but I was able to start to actually like put in the work and do it.
it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. What were some of your patterns that you can like look back on now before the relapse happened?
So I also struggle with an eating disorder. And I have always had food there, whether I wanted to abstain from it or binge it or get rid of it, from my body. Like it's been there since I was 12. And I have realized that a lot of the times, anytime I have been sober in the past, the eating has been there. Like no matter what, I didn't work on it. It was always something that I would again use to fill that void. And as much as we stop. I stopped when I put down the drink or the drug. That's obviously the first step from my journey and for me because I can't focus on anything else if I'm in an altered state of mind. If I am not feeding my body, everything else just kind of goes to the wayside, and eventually I feel that doesn't matter the work I do, doesn't matter the people I surround myself with, like, I just get to a physical and mental point of deterioration that, like, I go back to the drink and drug every single time. So a pattern for me has been the eating, leading to mental health, leading to picking up a drink or a drug. Again, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I still don't know if it's the mental health and then the eating, but I definitely know it is one of those 2 that always comes first before I pick up that drink or a drug.
And I think they probably go hand in hand because, with one, there's the other, and with one, and that goes back and forth.
Mhm.
Um,
I would also say isolation is, like, such a, deterrent of working on myself. I am a huge homebody at this point. I like to say that word, but the reality is, I don't like to reach out. I don't like to sometimes get off my couch. I like to kind of just be in my head with myself, which is very dangerous, and it's really hard to talk to, especially another woman, and just kind of be like, "Hey, like, I don't feel good. Like, can we like do something?" Because I don't know, it's just some sort of, like, blockage that I've had for a long time, and I think isolation leads me back out to, I can't do this myself as much I've tried. I've tried every possible way to do this myself and just can't, so I think being involved with other people, whatever that looks like, gotta have other people there to kinda tell you, "Hey, man, like, seems like you're a little bit off, like, why don't we go grab a cup of coffee?" And it's really that simple for me, trying that this time.
do you think for the isolation, I know for me, isolation was hiding. Like it was my way of keeping people out. And I did it in like a very straightforward way. I didn't want people coming into my house ever. It felt like this, I don't know, like this weird getting too close to me moment of like you're in my space, you're in this place that I'm doing all this destructive things. Like I didn't like people being there. And what's so crazy is I now see my kids are the same way, or they've developed this feeling that people aren't allowed in our home because of all of these years of me keeping people out. Do you feel like for you, it's more protecting yourself of like not letting people in, or is it shutting yourself in to your space so that you can keep doing what you're doing?
I think it's a combination. I think I have a major fear of abandonment. I think that if people get too close, they're going to see that maybe there's not much to like here and therefore just kind of walk away. I think that I also, like to do things in the dark and like don't want you to call me out on them. And it's definitely a way that I've used to continue to, kind of do the wrong thing in life. But again, it all comes back to that self-sabotage for me, whether I've gotten really close with a lot of people and in my life, and, like, I can say that I really don't have any best friends today because I have self-sabotaged every single one of those relationships, and, whether it be because I made bad decisions, that weren't supported, so I was like, "Okay, bye," or I got afraid that you were gonna see that I was making the wrong decision and not be there to support, but rather be there to judge. Or I was just going to do the right thing and it wasn't going to be good enough no matter what I did. So I definitely feel like I've either pushed away or been pushed away just because I'm either dishonest or I'm doing the pushing.
What do you think is the biggest lie you've told yourself over the years?
I think that I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Definitely. I think that every single person is good enough. And if I just believe that, whether I actually believe it right now, but if I just keep reminding myself, like, man, like life is hard, but like we're all doing it. So like you can do it too. I think that's gonna be I think that could change the world, at least mine.
And I think it's important to remember like life is hard. It's hard for everyone, and this perception, and I think social media has a lot to do with it, is that life's easier for others, or life looks more beautiful for others. And I know for myself that could sometimes set me back big time, is this belief that, other people from high school are doing so much better than me and they have such better lives. But the reality is I have 0 clue what's going on in their lives. I have 0 clue what they could be hiding, what their spouse could be hiding, what their children are dealing with. And I have to remind myself constantly that just life is hard for everybody. So it's not just hard on me, it's hard for everybody. So, how did your relapses affect your mental health?
Um, I would say that it kind of well, at least about a belief. It reconfirmed the fact that I can't do this, and that I'm always gonna kind of be like a fuck up, and that kind of led to that spiral of like being depressed and therefore not wanting to try and focusing on something that gave me a little bit of a rush to I always said, I was like, if people felt the way that I felt, then they would do the things that I did. And I think that using has was what made me feel like a normal human being. Like I had that experience of when I had that substance in my system, I was like, oh, like I'm happy and like I'm joyous and like I'm free. And, this is what normal people feel like when they're walking around. So I can never stop using. And I think that the reality is that it made me more depressed, more paranoid, gave me a lot more mood swings. So that when it was taken away, that's really where the mental health decline began. But like I convinced myself that it was. do like, life was the mental health problem, and that the substance was the only pill I could take that would solve that imbalance.
Yeah. I think one of the things that would be helpful for you to remember is that if other people did feel how you felt and had the disease of addiction, they would still do the things that you did. It doesn't make you bad because you did the things that you've done. It's a normal response for how you felt as someone who suffers from addiction,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, definitely. And I can also say, because I feel like I'm kind of focusing on a lot of the negatives, of, like, what have happened to me. I think that I mean, relapse doesn't have to be a part of recovery. But for me, every time I went out, I've also learned something new. I think that the combination of all of the consequences that have slowly built, because one thing I would like to say is that our worst days are ahead of us if we go back out. I do know that now. Um, that that has also led me to see, such, like, a beautiful aspect of life that I didn't have before. Relapse has definitely, given me a perspective change that, I think I would have been very close-minded with, um, if I had not gone through the things I've gone through.
And as you're back in your recovery journey now, what's something that you didn't expect to work that has?
I think waking up and taking a little bit of time to look in the mirror and be like, "Hey, like, you're strong and you're beautiful and you're brave." As silly as I always thought that was, having a space to kind of fall in love with myself, has been something different this time, for me. You know, I haven't been able to look at myself in a mirror for a long time, like, at least in the eyes, and I think that there's a relationship I'm starting to develop with myself, that's not abusive or self-harming. It's just based off of, like, respect and love for, like, what I have put this body and this mind through, and it's still here to help me to become the best version of me. And again, I think that loving myself still have a long way to go. Like, I'm starting to appreciate that I still have something to love.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. What boundaries or supports have been game changers this time around for you?
I am an overcommitter that also likes to lie.
I am an overcommitter as well.
Yes, so I'm a it's like a people pleasing overcommitter type thing. And, every other time I've been like, yeah, I'll go to 100,000 meetings or 90 meetings in 90 days. I'll show up to this, I'll show up to that. And honestly, I do not do this journey perfectly, but maybe the imperfect aspects have kind of been working for me. I haven't been stretching myself too thin by trying to hang out with people every day or, going to a meeting every day, which again, everybody's journey is different. I didn't really reach out to people in the beginning. I kind of took the time to really just learn about myself. And as the weeks have gone on, like I have been able to build my self-confidence enough, not because I was being told this is what I needed to do, but rather like, hey, this is what I want to do. It has like kind of I've built myself into getting into a routine of, wow, it does feel better to reach out to somebody. Wow, it does feel better to go to a meeting. Wow, it does feel better to show up to a program or go to the gym or whatever. But like I think I needed to kinda do that for myself rather than kind of bombard myself with, like, "Let me do this," and then have, like, a burnout of, "Okay, I'm not doing any of that because it all feels way too much and overwhelming, so I'm gonna go back to just doing nothing." And it's a buildup for me. This time I'm taking it slow. I'm taking it slow, and I'm not trying to be a superwoman in recovery or in being like a partner or in like jumping into a job or like, hey, like I have to make sure I eat only healthy foods and go to the gym 7 days a week. It's like taking it slow and I'm listening to what I feel like I need in the
That's
spaces.
great. I love that. I think that's so smart too because I know I was just talking to someone recently about trying to be the best at AA. And that was definitely something that I came in and I was like, I have my notebook and I'm gonna take notes and I'm gonna write down what people say because then I can go back and I can really nail this recovery thing. And the reality is where no relapse after I came into AA did not happen. However, I was far from the perfect AA person when I came in. I, as you know, I did not do 90 meetings in 90 days. Probably could have. I will be honest right now. Um, I probably could have because I used to use the excuse that, oh, I have little kids at home. I can't make these meetings. I got sober during COVID. They had tons of online meetings. I could have made a meeting every hour on the hour if I really wanted to. But that was the thing. I didn't want to. And that was me like inserting my will, still feeling like holding on to some sense of control over my life. And in addition to that, one of the suggestions is to, call a sponsor every single day. No, I definitely did not call my sponsor every single day. And now I can see why that is suggested. And I recommend people to do that because I held so much in and it almost caused me to go back out. So now I can go like hindsight 2020. Oh, yeah, maybe that's why I should have been reaching out and getting on it every single day. I felt like a nuisance. I felt like I have nothing new to say. My day is just the same as yesterday, or I'm going to a meeting tonight. I don't need to call her today. And I would sometimes call people that I met in the program, but there was only like one person that I ever called, and I didn't even call her every day.
Mhm.
So, like, I was still isolating in that for sure. And I think there's this idea that if you do it right, you're gonna it's gonna it's gonna work. But it's quantity, right? It's
Mhm.
quantity over quality here. And from me seeing your journey and seeing the work that you're putting in and thinking of, how introspective and self-aware you're being, I think that's huge. It's identifying the problems that led us to picking up and to doing the things. It's those feelings that we were talking about, those feelings and our excuses for using substances for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There is no right way to do it. There's
No,
like guidelines or whatever that we can follow, but I think that just like you said with social media and stuff, we have this view of what a woman's supposed to look like or what a family's supposed to be like or what our recovery is supposed to look like and like striving to be like something that maybe we're not is I feel like leading me and a lot of people in a direction that maybe we weren't supposed to be going in the first place.
so
So
true. Yeah, I agree. So, what do you do differently today when you're having a tough day or a craving hit?
um it's funny for the craving thing. I was talking with someone about this the other day. Um, you know how they say like go to a safe space? I used to think that that like was so corny and like how do you like in your mind how do you go to a safe space? Like see like a lake like with like a cute little log cabin and a fire outside and just kind of escape there, which is like also a tool in meditation that they can use. So, just to be honest, I'm totally a nerd when it comes to fantasy or Star Wars or any of those things. And I have found that when a craving hits me, I kind of go into my head and put myself in like this like Lord of the Rings type like situation. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be like on an adventure today and like let's go find like, the heart of the ocean or whatever. And like it's really worked for me. You gotta switch the thought. Like you gotta they say if, like, you move a muscle, you'll change the thought, and, like, it's also, like, the muscle in your brain too, like, if you can't if you're in a space where you're surrounded by other people and a craving hits, like, sometimes it's not easy to just get up and walk out of the room, sometimes it's, like, more of, like, a mental thing that you just, like, have to be like, "Okay, like, I'm feeling this, like, let me think about a dog. Oh, like, let me think about a cute puppy or kitten video that I saw on Instagram and like, otherwise like again, like getting up and talking about it or in the moment just like freaking I don't know, just moving your hands. I don't know what to say, but like just getting out of it. Don't sit in it and obsess about it and let it consume you because that's always been it leads me down a dark path that I end up picking up over. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of those elements are, like, similar to, like, grounding. I find grounding to be super helpful when I'm having an emotional relapse, finding like identifying all the senses and like what's something I can smell right now, what's something I can hear, what's something I can see. And it could be something really stupid, like I see the light switch across the room right now. Like, but
it
it
does help, it
it
does.
really does. It gets you out of your head. And I think that's kind of the point. So to someone who has relapsed and feels ashamed and they're kind of in that moment right now, what would you want them to know?
I think that everybody I when I fall, like, doesn't mean I'm a failure. It's just getting back up, and it doesn't matter how long that takes you. You just gotta get back up, and, I love, like, I'm not gonna do it perfectly, but a quote from Thomas Edison, I believe, that said that, he didn't fail, like, 4,000 times, and when he, like, finally got a light bulb to work, he just found 4,000 ways not to make a light bulb, until he found the one that did. So,
That's it.
I think it's again, like, failure is not, like, real. It's just, like, we stumble, we fall, and we get back up, and as long as we keep trying, like, it's gonna happen. Like, something is gonna change, and, you're not alone, and just keep going, man. Don't give up.
Yeah, that's so important. What's something that you think people get so wrong about relapse?
I know my father has said, right, like it's a choice and like you're weak-minded. So just make the right decision and stop being weak basically and like you'll get this. And that I think we need to be more sympathetic and empathetic to everybody's journey because while on drugs and alcohol may have severe consequences, I think like you said emotional relapses happen all the time and if I could just, like, look at other people and be like, I'm not in their shoes and have no idea what's happening, like, but they're a person and I'm a person, and, like, we all make mistakes. Maybe some of them are, more stupid than others, but, like, it's what makes us human and, like, you know, whether you're an addict, an alcoholic, or just somebody that's in the middle of it, we're all gonna make mistakes, and, like, let's come together and realize that maybe the mistakes make people beautiful rather than, ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Now, what's been, and it doesn't have to be from this time around, what's been your best sober moment?
My best sober moment. I think I've so just because I'm gonna say recently because my memory's still shoddy. One of these after effects of having a great run. Sorry, bad run. Um, I went to a comedy club with a bunch of girls a couple weeks ago, and one of the jokes was, I mean, didn't hit as much as listening to the girl responding to the joke, and, like, I'll just kind of replay it a little. It was, "What does an egg say when they walk into the bar?" "It's omelet." And it took her, like, 5 minutes to kinda be like, "I don't get it, omelet, omelet." And, like, the amount of belly laughs that came from that one experience of being with other sober women who can not only laugh at themselves, but, like, enjoy that laughter in, like, a funny moment. I think that's been the best experience I've had in a while. I forgot how much you can actually enjoy being with other people and how fun it is to actually laugh, so
Yeah, definitely great. That was hysterical for sure, and it
it
wasn't
was.
me. What's been your most main character energy moment so far?
Oh my god, I've had a lot, but, I have a place with my boyfriend, and I think that I kind of, like, walked back in to this house sober and feel that I know better with, like, every aspect of, like, okay, like, I'm sober, so, like, the clothes need to be laid out a certain way, and, like, I don't like what you've done with this room, and, like, when you get home, like, I need you to just been and kind of, like, telling him everything that I feel that he should be doing in life because, obviously he has 2 years sober and I have almost 90 days, so I know best, because 'cause I'm the main character, in the household. And I think the funny fights that me and him get into about basically telling him how to live his life when I don't even know what the hell I'm doing with mine have been a lot of some of the best main character syndromes that I've had because I'll go from telling him what he needs to do to, "Hey, do you love me? Do I look beautiful? Like, can you totally like validate me?" and like whatever. So that's been
I'm
like
gonna
the best.
invalidate you, but need you to come back and validate me at the same time. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with me today, and thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. I love that. I do have 2 more questions for you, a little bit more on a fun note.
Okay.
Um, what's a song on your, like, sober track or something that you listen to that inspires you?
So I am a singer myself, so I like strong female vocalists. And I would say like Adele. Um, that's basically Hello or Someone Like You, I believe, is the
Okay,
other one.
okay,
Just hearing her voice inspires me, on this sober journey because I wanna eventually be able to sing like her, so
love that. Out of all of the sober famous people, who would you wanna go to lunch
Robert Downey Jr.
with? Without a beat, without a beat. I think for me, well, I will say that I just listened to, a podcast that Brad Pitt's now sober. What?
I
Like,
know.
what? That was blew my mind. But I think for me, it would be Dak Shepard.
Oh, yes, I love
I
him.
love
I
him,
love him too.
and I love hearing, like, his stories. You have to listen to this story that he talks about. He had a quote unquote men's meeting that they have, like, from what I've heard of it, it sounds like it's all like people that are celebrities or in the public eye or something. And they all meet and kind of have meetings together. And there's this men's meeting, and he got into an argument with Eric Dane and had him, he's the guy McSteamy from Grey's
Oh my
Anatomy.
god. Okay, okay.
And he was like, "Let's go outside," type of deal. It was, like, that heated, and he had, like, time at this point, but it was a great moment. Yeah, highly recommend listening to his podcast too. Love his podcast. Um, all right, well, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you come back and share more of your journey as you continue on. I think you've got a great foundation and you're heading to do amazing things and helping other people, especially with this. I hope other people will hear it and be able to relate to your experience, your feelings, and know exactly like you said, they're not alone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah. This episode resonated with you. Share it with a friend and think to yourself, what are you in the middle of? And feel free to share it in the comments below. Until next time, keep going. If today's conversation brought something up for you, there are places you can turn for support. In the US, you can call the SAMHSA helpline at 1-800-662-HELP for support with addiction and recovery. For eating disorder support, the NEDA helpline is 1-800-931-2237. And if you ever feel like you're in immediate crisis, you can dial 988 to connect with the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You are not alone.